Hello and welcome everyone to the Transitional AI Reading Group seminar series. So we are starting with the first seminar for the year with Dr. Kumari Ranjini. Dr. Kumari Ranjini has a PhD in accounting from Monash University, and she has received several awards and medals, including medals for honors. And her publications are in reputed journals in accounting and finance, and research include board gender diversity, ability about management teams, corporate governance, inventory management, and capital markets. She's a former lecturer and has experience in teaching accounting and finance in tertiary institutes, including University of the South Pacific. And welcome, Kumari, and you can begin with that.
Thank you, Ritash, for the lovely introduction. Hi, everyone, and welcome to my seminar. Today, I will be presenting on the topic managerial ability and just-in-time inventory management. It gives me great pleasure to present at the Transitional Artificial Intelligence Research Group. I thank Ritash for organizing this seminar for me. The paper that I will be presenting today is my very first paper from my PhD thesis. So I started working in the area of managerial ability and just-in-time inventory management while I pursued my PhD studies at Monash University. The paper that I will be presenting today is available for downloading and reading from SSRN using the link that's provided on this particular slide. I have co-authored this paper with my supervisors, Ralph and Cameron, who are working at Monash University. My presentation objectives for today are provided on the slide. So what I would like to first of all mention is that I graduated with a PhD in accounting from Monash University in 2019. And that is on the topic managerial ability and just-in-time inventory management. I graduated just before COVID-19 started, and as we are all aware, COVID-19 severely disrupted supply chains, and this had raised questions about what is the future of just-in-time inventory systems. So when I pursued my PhD in this area, I did not know that it's going to become very topical, especially after COVID-19 has disrupted supply chains. So my PhD thesis, it highlights the important role that top management team's ability plays in the efficient management of just-in-time inventory systems. And I'll be talking more about it while I present this particular paper. So with regards to my presentation objectives, I'll begin by highlighting what my research motivations are. Efficiency in inventory management enhances firm value, is highly valued by investors, and predicts future stock returns. This has been highlighted by prior research. When I talk about efficient JIT inventory management, I define this as referring to inventory levels which is very close to zero or lower level of inventory holdings. Prior research discusses that just-in-time inventory management is a very complex issue due to its complex requirements, and it requires top management commitment. Having said this, prior research has not examined the role played by talented top management teams. As we know, hiring and recruiting and paying talented people is very costly for firms. This has triggered numerous research. The focus of vast majority of the literature has been on the role played by more able managers in relation to firm outcomes, and the results are inconclusive. There is lack of evidence on how effectively more able managers manage internal operations of a firm. So research in this area is scarce, and I, through my PhD thesis and through this particular paper, hope to contribute by focusing on the role played or in regards to just-in-time inventory management, and this is the focus of this research. So when we talk about more able managers, my arguments would be relative to their less able counterparts. So when we talk about them, one may argue that yes, they do have a lot of abilities. So it's very obvious that they would be able to efficiently manage just-in-time inventory systems as well. So what's so new about it? So my argument is that, or our argument is that, while top management teams may be able, but when we talk about in relation to efficiently managing just-in-time inventory, the case may not be so obvious that they may be motivated to go about engaging in such efficient management. This is due to the following reasons. First of all, just-in-time inventory systems, the more efficiently it is managed, it imposes significant risks to do with high risk of stockouts. And this would be having adverse implications on the reputation capital of top management teams. There should be a balance between gaining efficiency from low levels of inventory holdings and at the same time managing risk of stockouts. So it's not obvious that high ability top management teams would engage in efficient JIT inventory management if the expected risk outweighs efficiency gains. Having said this, the other very important reason is that there is lack of compensation based incentives when it comes to efficiently managing JIT inventory systems. So if this is the case, then more able top management teams may be less motivated to focus on JIT. Let's say that there are other areas in which their compensation is tied to achieving a particular firm outcome or other mechanisms through which that could be achieved. Then in such situations, why would top management teams even bother to focus on JIT? So this brings me to discussing my research objective. So in this particular paper, our objective is to examine whether more able top management teams relative to their less able counterparts manage the JIT inventory system more efficiently. Our research makes the following contributions. First, we contribute to the literature on JIT inventory management. Prior work identifies top management commitment as the most important factor for the successful implementation of JIT inventory systems. We extend by proposing that managerial ability influences the commitment by top management teams in efficient management of JIT inventory. To the best of our knowledge, this is the first study that provides a theoretical link between managerial ability and just-in-time inventory systems. I will shortly be discussing that. It does so by mapping specific traits of more able managers that has been identified by prior research with the requirements for efficient JIT inventory management. Next, our research contributes to the literature on managerial ability. Prior work has largely focused on the influence of managerial ability on corporate outcomes. The exact mechanisms by which such outcomes can be achieved have been largely unexplored. Our study shows that more able top management teams are capable in efficient JIT inventory management and contributing to better firm performance. We also contribute to the literature that evaluates JIT inventory management as an effective dimension of firm's operations. Prior research has not analyzed the role of talented human capital in JIT inventory management. Our research suggests that skilled human capital is important in that managerial ability of top management teams is associated with efficient JIT inventory management. To gain efficiency in inventory management, firms should view hiring and retaining high quality management as being of significant real economic benefit. Moving on to theoretical framework. Efficient JIT inventory management has complex requirements. It requires the items to be available as and when required and in exact quantity or in good condition. This makes it very difficult for the conditions to be met, and it has got complex requirements. One of the important parts of the inventory to arrive as and when required and in good condition is for value analysis to be performed. And this is an essential part. It includes things such as liaison with suppliers, establishing and maintaining long-term relationships with suppliers. Prior research has identified top management commitment as a very important factor to, for this to be facilitated. On the other hand, when we talk about the literature of managerial ability, it highlights that more able managers have superior firm and industry knowledge and are able to better contribute to firm outcomes. They have better judgments, predict product demands more accurately, and are able to choose better projects and exercise more efficient management. So all this has already been established by prior literature. What we do is that we identify the specific traits that has been highlighted by prior literature and map it with the requirements for efficient JIT inventory management. So we argue that since more able managers have superior firm and industry knowledge, this would enable them to identify more relevant and reliable supply chain partners. Since they have superior negotiation skills, more able managers would be able to establish and maintain long-term relationships with the supply chain partners. More able managers' trait in terms of maximizing efficiencies in costs, business scale, and techniques would enable them to prepare a carefully thought out framework to reduce the JIT implementation and management costs while preserving JIT efficiency. And finally, more able managers are found to be better innovators. So they have better innovative abilities, and this would enable them to bring about continuous innovation in terms of efficient JIT inventory management. This results in, or based on our prior arguments, that more able managers have superior abilities and their specific requirements map with what is required for efficient or what is required to efficiently manage JIT inventory systems. This leads to our hypothesis, which is stated as follows. More able top management teams are associated with more efficient JIT inventory management. To test our hypothesis, we use a regression model. And in this particular regression model, our dependent variable is JIT, and our test variable is managerial ability along with other control variables. I will shortly be discussing about variable measurement. So in this paper, we are using proxies for our main variables and also for the control variables. Our main variable of interest is the coefficient on managerial ability, and we expect a negative coefficient on this particular variable because higher values of managerial ability represents higher level of managerial ability. On the other hand, lower JIT represents more efficient JIT inventory management. So we are expecting a negative coefficient to support our hypothesis. Our dependent variable JIT, to proxy this, we use ratio of work in progress to sales inventory. So this is used in the main analysis. Lower ratios represent higher efficiency. Our reason for using work in process inventory to proxy for JIT is as follows. Work in process in a manufacturing process is largely regarded as a direct measure of how strongly the manufacturing system is calibrated. Studies document significant decline in work-in-process inventory following JIT implementation. Having said this, we also use alternative measures in our sensitivity analysis, which includes total inventory to sales ratio, raw materials to sales ratio, and inventory efficiency measure in accordance to what is being done in Mishra and the other authors in 2013. Moving on to managerial ability. This is measured following Demeridian and other authors in 2012. This particular data is publicly available. So I'll briefly discuss what the authors have done. Essentially, they use a two-step procedure. In the first step, they use a first stage model, which involves data and development analysis. This is an optimization technique in which the authors use 7 input variables to see how efficiently the firm transforms it into the output variable, which is sale. And this is captured through a firm efficiency value as the dependent variable. Then what the authors do is that they take this particular value and use it in the second stage regression model as the dependent variable. And they use several control variables to control for firm-specific characteristics that would be influencing this firm efficiency. The authors attribute the residual in this model as the ability of top management teams. So in accordance to that, that is what we use to proxy for the ability of top management teams in our research. We also use alternative measures in our sensitivity analysis, and these include general managerial ability of Custodio and other authors in 2013. We also decile rank the Demeridian measure, measures raw score by EI in industry, following the author's later published work. This is to make the score more comparable across time in industries. And we also use 1 year leg of the managerial ability score. Moving on to discussing about our research data. So in this research, we use archival data from publicly available sources. CompuStat is used for financial statement data relating to JIT and control variables. And as I previously mentioned, MASCO data is obtained from Peter Demeridian's website using the link that's provided on this slide. Our sample comprises of United States listed firms, and we exclude financial and utilities industries due to their regulated nature. Our sample period spans from 1987 to 2018 due to the availability of data at the time this particular analysis was conducted. Our controls in the regression model is to control for determinants of efficient JIT inventory management, which is at the firm level and also at the industry level. We also control for industry and ER fixed effects. Moving on to discussions about our sample. We begin constructing our sample using data for firms that have disclosed their work-in-process inventory data. So we start with 123,678 firm year observations. And then we have excluded data from banking and financial industries. Upon merging our data with the test variable and other control variables, we end up with 69,314 firm year observations, which is equals to 7,966 unique firms in our sample. In terms of the distribution of our data, so we have got the least number of observation in the year 1987, and this relates to the availability of control data on a control variable. And most number of data is available in the later periods. And the highest is in 1996, which amounts to 4.06% of our sample firms. In terms of the unique number of firms, mostly it's around 2,000 firms per year on average. Moving on to industry membership. So this is based on Pharma French Industries classification. Around 25% of our sample is from electronic equipment, machinery, and medical equipment industries. With regards to average JIT per industry, so the highest mean JIT is in the following three industries, which is aircraft, agriculture, beer, and liquor. And the list is in the following 4 industries relating to restaurants, hotels, motels, food products, retail, candy, and soda industries. I'll now be briefly discussing descriptive statistics for the main variables. Just-in-time inventory management, the theoretical efficient level for this is 0 as per Barlow 2002. Our statistics suggest that around 50% of our sample firm years, those above the median, maintain their work-in-process inventory levels at more than 2% of sales. Our samples also includes around 25% of firm years, those above the third quartile, that maintain an inventory balance of just under 5% of sales. And finally, our sample has around 25% of firm years, which is below the first quartile, that maintain an inventory balance of very close to 0% of sales, like less than 0.38%. Our mean and median managerial ability score is consistent with prior studies. This is our correlation result. So we can see that our test variable managerial ability is negatively correlated with our dependent variable, which provides like a preliminary result that more able managers are associated with or are correlated with efficient JIT inventory management. And when we talk about our dependent variable JIT, we can see that most of the control variables are significantly correlated with it, except for sales growth. The independent variables, they're also correlated with each other. We have done a variance inflation test, and the VIF shows that all the values are less than the conservative threshold of 5, beyond which multicollinearity would be an issue in our research. So that's not the case. And the highest VIF relates to earnings and is 3.5503. This particular graph over here is showing the distribution of efficient JIT inventory management across managerial ability quintiles. So we can see that as managerial ability increases, we can see that efficiency in JIT inventory management is also increasing. Moving on to main results. So this particular table shows our main findings for the regression model that I had discussed earlier. So what we do is, first of all, we include a baseline model whereby we do not include the test variable, but we only include control, but we only include control variables. And then the results are presented in column 1. And then in column 2, we include our main test variable along with the control variables. And we can see that as expected, we find a negative coefficient on the variable, and it is significant at 5% level, and it supports our hypothesis that more able top management teams are associated with more efficient JIT inventory management. In terms of the adjusted R square, we can see that after including our test variable, there's a slight increase in the adjusted R square by around 4 basis points. And using the Gujarati F statistic, we can see that that is a significant increase at 1% level. One of the other things that we have done is that we have excluded the following control variables from our main model and rerun the analysis. And this includes sales growth, cost of goods sold, and earnings. The reason for doing that is that when I was discussing my main measure for JIT, I said that it is scaled by sales. So it's work in process inventory divided by sales. So there could be a potential mechanical association with between the dependent variable and some of the control variables, which are these ones here. So we exclude those from the regression model and rerun the analysis, and we still find negative and a significant coefficient on our test variable, which supports our main hypothesis. Moving on to economic significance of our result. So firms with more able or managerial ability score, that is a 1 standard deviation above the mean score, experience an increase in efficiency in JIT inventory management of 12.94 basis points. We have done a mediation analysis and a moderation analysis as well to see the effect of this on firm performance. So I'll be discussing each in turn. A multivariate analysis is conducted to test the mediation effect of JIT on the association between managerial ability and firm performance. Why do we do that? Prior research suggests that managerial ability positively affects firm performance. So using a Baron-Kenny procedure highlighted in their research in 1987. Our results shows that efficient JIT inventory management has a direct and significant effect on ROA when MA is not included in the model. We again run our analysis and find that when we have managerial ability in the model, it has a direct effect on ROA, which is proxying for firm performance, when efficient JIT inventory management is not included in the model. So each of the variables, when they are separately included in the model, they are having an effect on firm performance. So next, what we do is that we include both JIT and managerial ability in the same model, and we find a significant effect on ROA. Our findings suggest that efficient JIT inventory management partially mediates the effect of managerial ability on return on asset. Moving on, we examine whether the effect of efficient JIT inventory management on future stock returns is more pronounced for firms with more able managers. Why do we do this? Prior research provides evidence that inventory productivity predicts future stock returns. Our argument is that since we show in our main analysis that firms with more able managers are associated with more efficient JIT inventory management. So based on our main results, firms with more able managers are likely to have more efficient JIT inventory management and hence have better inventory productivity. It is possible that the higher future stock returns of firms with more inventory productivity are due to the effect of more able managers efficiently managing JIT inventory. We aim to show that the choices made by more able managers on buffer inventory would still be better than those made by less able counterparts, since they would map into higher future stock returns. Our argument is based on the following reasonings. More able managers have better knowledge about industry trends and a greater ability to predict product demands than their less able counterparts. They are likely to estimate buffer stocks more accurately if required due to high uncertainty and/or industry trends. Our findings reveal that the effect of efficient JIT inventory management on future stock returns is more pronounced for firms with more able managers. This highlights the ability of more able managers to enhance firm value through JIT inventory management. We have performed various sensitivity analysis. First, we have used different subsamples. This includes using a subsample of only non-service firms, and then we use only manufacturing firms. Because we use work in process inventory data as our proxy for JIT, and our sample construction begins with those particular observations or firms that have reported work in process inventory data. What happens is that our sample is mostly comprising of manufacturing firms. So, but we did control for industry effects as well in our model. And that's why we have used different subsamples as well to test our sensitivity of the results. And overall, we find consistent result. We also use alternative measures of our main variables, as is shown on this particular slide. To address endogeneity concerns, we have used the following approaches. First, we use propensity score met sample to re-estimate the main model. This is done to overcome the issue of endogeneity due to the omission of a variable that is correlated with both our test variable, that is managerial ability, and a firm's management of JIT inventory management being the dependent variable. Next, we use a two-stage Heckman procedure, and this is done to address potential self-selection biases. For example, more able managers may select firms that either have efficient JIT inventory management or provide them higher levels of discretion, but that is not relevant in this study. This is to do with my PhD thesis. But in this particular instance, the more directly related one is that the issue of self-selection bias that would come about from more able managers self-selecting themselves in firms that already have efficient JIT inventory management. So to address that concern, we use two-stage Heckman test. So in a nutshell, our research basically shows that more able top management teams enhance firm performance through efficient JIT inventory management. And overall, it highlights the importance of talented top management teams in contributing to efficient JIT inventory management that eventually translates into higher shareholder wealth. Our paper is available for download from SSRN using the link that's provided on this particular slide, and below is the suggested citation. This particular slide provides information about my PhD thesis, which is titled, "Do More Able Top Management Teams Unconditionally Lead to Better Internal Operations? A Case of Just-in-Time Inventory Management?" And below is the suggested citation. So that basically brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kumari, for a wonderful presentation. I welcome the questions, comments from the floor. Yes?
Yeah, sorry, I'm new to this field, but my question is actually that so here basically we show that if we include some like other predictors, or we exclude some other predictors, then the coefficient for the management, estimated coefficient for the management can change. And although it does not change too much, so if my understanding is correct, then my question is that then how to select what variables we should include, so what other predictors we should include. So with that, is there any like systematic way we can take?
Thank you for your question. Actually, I have not been able to understand your question. Could you please rephrase it?
Sorry, I think in one table, so basically we have all the T values and F values.
Can you go back to the slide with the features you have?
This one here?
Yeah, exactly. So here basically is that here if my understanding is correct, then it says that if we exclude some of the predictors, if my understanding is correct, then basically some the estimate for the MA will change. So is that?
Yeah, so basically the third column over here, I'm assuming you're referring to this?
Right.
Yes, basically, as I mentioned that I'm using a proxy for managerial ability measure. So
right.
Because of that, one of the issues that my research is having is a potential mechanical association problem with the dependent variable, because now this is the way the managerial ability of the top management team is constructed, and I'm just using a publicly available measure. Right. So because my dependent variable is work in progress inventory scaled by sales, so that sales over there could be correlated with these control variables that I have used in this particular model over here. Let me just show you here. Yeah, so I'm trying to essentially address that. So even if I take out those particular control variables, so what I'm saying is that I still find a negative coefficient on my MA, which supports my hypothesis that more able managers in the top management teams are associated with more efficient JIT inventory management.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. I think my question is that then so should we put that variable in the model, or shouldn't we? Because it seems that they should some slight different.
Yeah, the question is about which variables are most important.
Oh, so in terms of, so this is the most important variable, because this is what I'm proposing in terms of contributing to more efficient JIT inventory management. And these particular variables and the control variables are already discussed in prior literature as contributing to inventory efficiency.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
Just a question. So, like you mentioned initially, this model is valid for everything pre-COVID. Do you think this is still valid post-COVID as well, or in COVID?
Could you please repeat your question? Sorry, I'm not able to clearly hear you.
Oh, sorry. I'll just cover up. So just check. Just a question. So you said that this model was developed. The algorithm. Oh, sorry. These variables were selected. These properties were selected, and this correction was found for data pre-COVID. Does this still hold in COVID, or do you think the model needs to change? Is there any research done in this field more?
Yes, thank you for your question. Actually, it's a very good question. That's where I think that my PhD research would be still applicable because what my theoretical argument is that when we talk about JIT inventory management, it's there is a lot of things required due to its complexity that more able managers would still be playing an important role. So in terms of future research, it could be done using, and that's something that I'm thinking of doing, using the data only for the COVID period and rerunning this. And of course, seeing if there could be other important things that could be incorporated, and that could become a research on its own. But in terms of whether more able managers would have played an important role, and in terms of the application of my main finding of my, let's say, PhD thesis and this particular paper, I think it is still relevant because it is not just a regression that I have run. It is based on theoretical underpinnings and my theoretical arguments in terms of how it would be mapping. So I can give you an example. So, for example, one of the issues that came about during COVID-19 was the disruptions in supply chains, and it was particularly to do with the supply chain partners being in different particular countries, different localities. So as part of my theoretical argument, what I argue is that more able managers, top management teams, that's where they could come in really handy, and their knowledge base, their talent could be effective, because in such situations, they would have obviously, first of all, before the crisis, or they would have obviously thought about it in certain cases, how to go about identifying supply chain partners, the locality, and having a sort of a diversified supply chain partner and all those things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other from the floor? Okay, so I have a question. Firstly, it's about the data. Do you publish or supply the data that you took a large piece of data and then you processed it? Do you give that with the paper?
It depends on the journal's requirement when we are like submitting it for some journals, they do require it, some don't. The thing is that since it's publicly available and like it could be anywhere downloaded and rerun.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, generally in our group we use GitHub and give a link with the GitHub with the paper or the data in this. Which makes things easier for other researchers to produce. But the second question is about the software you use to do all this analysis.
Yes.
Do you give the information with the paper?
No, so we don't provide code, but for my other research papers, I did have to provide my code along with the paper itself. So basically, I used SAS software to run the analysis. Yeah, but on this particular like paper, making it available through SSRN, just the paper is available and not the codes. But based on my prior experience, some of the journals, they do require codes to be provided. Like I do event studies, for example, as well. So I have provided.
So how do they publish the code and the data, the journals in your field?
What they do is that so currently, that particular paper is still like in the process. So I'm not sure how they're going to make it available. It didn't used to be the case before. Only the paper itself used to be sent for reviews, but now it has changed, particularly in economics journals. So they're wanting the data code as well.
All right, fair enough. We're just trying to figure out the publication process of different fields. Thank you for a great talk. This was really interesting. Although we are a math school, there are a number of researchers here who are interested in financial mathematics. We have a Master of Financial Mathematics program running here. And we are going to provide this talk through YouTube to others who did not attend. May be of interest to the finance researchers in the school. Thank you for your wonderful talk. Do you want to say anything else?
I'm sorry?
Is there anything else?
Yes, one of the reasons why I was particularly interested in presenting in this particular research group is, so as I was saying that I have used proxies for my JIT measure and my managerial ability measure. Like if there would be people interested in your research group, then potentially we could look for collaborations in terms of coming up with direct measures for JIT, in terms of using artificial intelligence to capture which firms actually use JIT. Like right now, it is archival data, and I'm just assuming based on work in progress inventory level data that they may be having it, but it's not a direct measure, it's only a proxy. Likewise, for my managerial ability, I would be willing to and looking forward to collaborating in terms of coming up with a direct measure for managerial ability in relation to my JIT inventory management discussion that I have done, particularly to do with this part here. The theoretical framework in terms of how it could be developed. So specific to my research rather than relying on the managerial ability general measure that has been publicly available. So that's something that I would be interested in developing for my future research, and I would be happy to discuss for any potential collaboration.
Thank you, Kumari. We are in the process of making the group website, and we invite application domain researchers such as you and those in climate change sciences and others to give a problem definition with the existing data. So you need to give like a short document of a problem definition with some links to the data. Then we can advertise it to our incoming interns and students, especially the interns from India, and we can work together to address your problem. So we welcome data problems. We have people who can apply the machine learning models and give you the results so that you can write the paper. Yeah. Thank you.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. 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 Thanks. I'll stop the recording.
Okay. Thank you so much. Bye.